Welcome back. So thorny is the issue of the cost of living in the country that even as we try to move forward, it keeps dragging us back. And so before we take on the next subject of discussion this morning, I am obliged, Bwana Deputy Governor, to want to know from you, as well as millions of Nairobians, 300 million shillings for food, and yet they are still going hungry?
Yeah, well, I spoke about the law of comparative advantage, right? Nairobi is not an agricultural city. It's the capital city. We focus on other things, service delivery, technology. We focus a lot on building infrastructure so that you can enable people to be able to do business. Indeed, we provide 60 or something % GDP to this country. So our focus is not in agriculture. And that's why we'll support other counties in other areas, financial, economic, because indeed we are the financial hub of the region. And then we will get food from other counties to come into Nairobi. And that's how any normal country would work. So indeed, out of our 10 departments, agriculture gets the least budget, because that's not our focus. But I'd just like to address, Charles, two issues. One is about this maize ship that came from Mexico. Yeah, and I saw the Deputy President saying yesterday when he was in Kiminini, in Trans Nzoia, that the food has come quickly. You know, we have procurement, and it's government procurement. And in any business, you don't go and supply things without actually knowing what price you're supplying at. It just doesn't work. Yeah. If you look at the taxes that are put for things you import, there's 16% VAT, and there's another 30% income tax. That's 46%. So how would a businessman, in their normal sense, go and import maize from Mexico, which takes 3 or 4 weeks to come to the port, without knowing there was going to be a duty-free amnesty from Parliament? So what happened in this case, and what the opposition are screaming about, is not that the maize has come quickly. Yes, we do need the maize because we're in a crisis. The thing is, there must have been some collusion somewhere. The person who went and imported that maize 4 weeks ago must have known that 1 week ago there was going to be a duty-free amnesty.
I'm surprised.
Otherwise, hold on, let me just finish. Otherwise, there's no way they would have gone to bring that. It was brought by a private person, businessman. There's no way they'd have gone to bring that maize without knowing the price that it will be bought at. So they must have known it 4 weeks ago.
Two things here.
What is the
just
issue
on
here?
that? Two things here, Bwana Yusuf. Mheshimiwa Jogu Barua said, these are not one-time traders. The maize could have been in the high seas, and because of the dire situation in the country, the government just manages. Would you rather Kenyans die
Charles, do I tell you
of following procurement procedures?
No.
It doesn't really
It's not about procurement procedures. It's about collusion. And even when you look at the stock market, when you look at the stock market in the private sector, there's what you call insider trading, where people go, know what the prices of the stocks or the bonds are, because they are from the inside and they can manipulate the market, and they do that at a profit to the expense of somebody else. This is exactly what has happened with the maize.
Hold on,
let me just finish my thoughts. Barua has contributed.
Because we have limited time.
Yes. I just had two thoughts. That was the first thought. The second thought was on environmental and climatic changes that Mheshimiwa Yusuf was talking about. Yeah, if we just look at fact, the situation we are in Kenya now, the last time this situation happened was 1984 when there was world hunger. That is 33 years ago. Okay, since then we've had the Moi government. We didn't have this situation. We had the Kibaki government. We didn't have this situation. Now it's happening with the Uhuru government. You can only sum it up with one thing: planning. This government did not plan, because you have drought every 4 years. So we've had almost 6 or 7 droughts since 1984. It's never been as dire as this. So you can only point out that the government of the day is the one that has not planned properly.
Mheshimiwa Jogu Barua, does it hold water, the argument?
I think it doesn't, because for anybody who is concerned about the hunger of the people, they should be talking about offloading that maize, so they can reach the people who are dying and get the table of the people. The other things will follow. What they are talking about are semantics and theory that don't act for a hungry person. What I see my brother doing, and Karuma, who is my respected colleague in Parliament, is that they are trying to get a reason to bash Jubilee at any cost. What you are saying is Jubilee is not doing business of maize. What you are saying is that there is maize at the port. And if that maize is going to be duty-free, that duty-free allowance is not going to benefit the businessmen, because the price of the maize will come at the duty-free price. So this idea of speculating or always suspecting somebody is stealing is something which is very endemic in the ODM.
We don't see anything.
I think it's good. It's a high time you people in ODM started saying positive in everything.
Charles,
I'll come to you.
Where disclose the honor of this maize?
No, you can't.
So that it's
no, you can't unless you give me the document.
This is what I'm telling you. Okay, this is what I'm telling you.
This issue is so personalized,
this is
politicized that they want to demonize.
No, it is not politics.
By publicly.
What's important,
Charles, when people die,
what's important? How fast the maize comes
on the table.
The common Wananchi has
food at the table.
Maize should always come fast. There must be food available to the people always.
Period.
So if there is a deficit, there should be food docking or with the people on the table every day. What we are saying here is what you should listen to. We are saying, in as much as food should be there, is there a possibility that we have corrupt practices by individuals who have captured the state apparatus to supply us food, creating an artificial shortage, importing maize, then creating facilities which should not be available to them, having made our people hungry and starving.
Kaluma is shifting.
Please,
will you let him finish?
Yeah, but he's shifting. He's just going over the same thing. He's shifting the propaganda from shortage to oversupply now, and because there is a supply, the supply now becomes an issue.
Is that what you are doing?
So exactly speaking.
Is that what you are doing?
Can I explain?
Yes,
we have no problem people importing, food commodities into the country, or any commodity, to deal with, the deficits in supply we have around, and to stabilize our economy and lower the cost of living. What we are saying is that in this particular import, we were creating a supplementary budget so that we pay off, whatever was being imported in terms of maize and milk, and of course sugar at once, to deal with, the hunger of our people. We have created a duty-free amnesty. We are saying if you import as an individual this time, you are not going to, pay duty to the government, so that we are losing money that otherwise should come to the government to deal what we are dealing with. What we are asking is, who are involved in this importation? How fast did it come? And how did this businessman, so-called, whom you say I cannot disclose and I should not, how did they know there is a duty amnesty so as to be able to exploit it just, immediately it is landed down? This Charles is not somebody who was importing before. And by the way, I think when we start looking at the elephant in the eye, Charles, allow us to be bold. We'll tell you who owns that maize. Just as I was telling you.
If you can bring me the document,
who owned the sugar, I will bring it back tomorrow. Call us back.
What I'm finding up to this, what I'm finding quite strange is that at one point the ODM propaganda focus was on shortage of maize and the suffering of the Kenyan people. Now the maize has arrived. The propaganda agenda has shifted to who is behind this maize import, who is benefiting from it, and who has done it. When he's completely ignoring the dynamics of capitalism. Is that at any given time, in fuel prices, in maize, in any product you talk, as we sit here, there is a businessman who is planning how to bring that.
His ship is just sailing by our territorial water.
How to meet the demand of the market. The dynamics of meeting the demands of the market is what makes business go on and make profit. And therefore, the idea whether this comes from Mexico or China does not matter. What we know now is that we have maize in our country to meet the needs of our.
Would it be important to know where it comes from?
As far as I'm concerned, there was a.
No, rather for the common Wananchi, would it be important for them?
Not really, because I want maize, I want unga on my table,
regardless of where
and the prices of maize would go down, and that ends the ODM propaganda campaign of saying kuna shida ya unga. Unga is dead.
What's happening?
As you react,
I'm just going to close this.
As you react, would it be important for the common mwananchi to know where this maize has come from?
And who is importing it at 20,000 a bag?
I think it doesn't harm to know who is importing. With his open business.
If
the business is clean and it's good to know, but not important to me. It's good, but not necessarily important. But what I'm telling Karuma is, if you're in the business of fishing, you continue fishing when it's raining or not, whether it's hunger or not. If in the business of sugar importation and selling sugar, you continue that business. That's your lifeline. The same case with maize. So you cannot blame people for continuing shipping maize in and out of the country. This is a free economy. If this maize coincided with the tax amnesty, so be it. The work of the businessman is to scan the environment and look for opportunities. And what Karuma is doing is contradicting himself. He is saying that people who are in government should not participate in business the same government. Then what he is saying as a parliamentarian, he should be able to police and supervise the businessmen on what they are doing. That is not moral, it's not ethical, that is double speak. What I'm saying is ODM or NASA is called, look at the interest of Kenyans first. Kenyans want ugali, they want ugali on the table, other things will come second. I'm sure Karuma and myself, we are not in shortage of ugali. There is ugali in my house.
We are in shortage.
But I'm saying is that the common mwananchi, Wajiko, Odiambo and so forth, what they want is ugali on the table. The academic exercise you are putting us through is not important for this country at this particular time.
Fair enough. What the common mwananchi wants is ugali on their table.
Whether brought by leaders
Mheshimiwa Kaluma and Mheshimiwa Jonathan Mweke seem to be asking questions. How fast would it take maize to travel from Mexico or wherever to Kenya in such a situation? Food for thought. We still hope as Kenyans that there will be food for wananchi. But now I want us to turn to page 6 of the Daily Nation. Page 6 of the Daily Nation. And it has a story about a rift in Jubilee over who should really silent war in Uhuru camp as teams fight to lead his campaign. Officials of Jubilee Secretariat and State House are pulling strings in a battle to appear relevant. President Uhuru Kenyatta's re-election bid is facing a crisis, according to the Nation, from within, with a simmering battle between the Jubilee Secretariat and the State House team over the control of the re-election campaign. Is this hot air?
I think this is just good material to sell newspapers, and I think even if you read the story, the Secretary General of the party has put that to rest, as well as the spokesperson for the president. Their roles are so different. One runs the presidential campaign and tells the Kenyan public what the head of state is doing, which is their function. They are civil servants employed by the state. The other one is the secretariat of the ruling party, which is spearheading our dynamic campaign to get President Uhuru Kenyatta and William Ruto re-elected, as well as to have a majority both in the Senate and in Parliament in the 2017 elections. So this is purely a speculative piece by some bright journalist who wants to put his name out there and sell more newspapers. But to be honest, when you read the story, there's not much to it.
It's a fight for resources, and this issue we have just spoken about the unga, the supernormal profits we are talking about. The real truth is, these businessmen that Kaluma cannot name on air today, he'll name them tomorrow when he comes with the documentation. These businessmen are taking these supernormal profits that the Mwananchi are paying for to use it for campaigns. And the rift you are seeing in this political party, that is the ruling political party, the different camps are fighting for those resources, because they know now a ship has come, we have this amount of money for campaign, who can eat what?
Mheshimiwa Barua, is there a rift really, or is this hot air?
I think I like the way people are coming up with different scenarios. Like now my brother here has come with I know he's an intelligent
campaign.
What he has come up with a very beautiful hypothesis. I mean, the hypothesis, until it's proven, it stays as a hypothesis. I mean, they are reading too much in Jubilee. They have so much interest in Jubilee campaigns. And I want to summarize like this.
For good reason?
I don't think he can have any good reasons to talk about Jubilee. is just trying to, I mean, not him as a person, but the coalition is trying to demonize Jubilee at any cost because of hunger for power. Although they are directioners, they cannot tell us where this country can go. But what I'm saying is going back to the question. My friend Mweke is going back. You're asking about the lift in Jubilee. He talks about Unga.
He gave an example.
That's Unga. Unga, he just stuck in Unga position. But what I'm saying is the situation is like this. Jubilee campaign is so vibrant, and you have so many volunteers working for President Kenyatta re-election. And that is why you see people in the newspaper are saying their fights. I am here as an independent Kenyan to talk about the good of this country and also support the Jubilee from a point of knowledge.
So that you are here as a member of parliament for Gishugu constituency.
That's one of my credentials. For the next 2 months, the truth of be a member of parliament. After that, I don't know. I will still continue even after I do parliament in August 9.
Yes.
What I'm saying is this: we have got so many volunteers, and you have got very many groups working and organizing themselves voluntarily to work for this Jubilee government re-election, because you have got hope in the leadership and faith. And what Kenyans have come to realize is that the alternative to Jubilee is tragic, and we are not going to allow a tragedy for this nation. Look at what's happening to ODM. Anytime we go to the podium, instead of telling us the direction they're going to take, they tell us they boycott elections. They tell us there will be no peace. They
have said that?
Yeah, they have said it. I can even take evidence tomorrow, not now.
Tomorrow never comes.
So what I'm saying is that the ODM now should come clean. They should stop propaganda. If they are serious opposition, government are waiting, let us come with tangible proposals. Like they may find us come with a file and so on, ignore the things like this one. But the idea of going to the bottom saying, oh, who do you want to steal? Oh, I mean, what is this? Let's show leadership.
You realize you have just turned my Jubilee question into an ODM.
No.
Bashing. Is there silent intrigue?
In short, I want to say there's no silent fight. There's just active campaigning for Jubilee. Let ODM concentrate on their business. We shall show them dust on August 8.
All right.
You see, Charles, if we were developed democracies, we would not be thinking about Jubilee and the next elections. Yeah, because it has lost it. We would seriously sit down and begin questioning what are these issues that will dictate, how people campaign and how people vote. And by the way, this is an incumbent government. You just need to check it in terms of what the people needs to be done and see where the nation is and appreciate that we are wasting time, discussing a government which has lost it and has no chance of coming back. Charles, we've lost the war on corruption. Charles, the cost of living is what we've spent the whole morning discussing. It is gone. We are now left at the hands of businessmen, as my brother Njogu Barua says. Charles, the war to create one united Kenyan nation where everybody looks at one another in the eye is now completely lost. We have become, archetypal tribalists. We are, running an exclusionary system of government. Charles, this is the only government in which more than half of our revenue collection in a year is going into debt repayment. I don't know why, the most learned Jubilee member of Parliament, Njogu Barua, is not talking about it. From independence to the time we went into Parliament, and people take it lightly, the debt burden was at one point around 3 trillion. We are talking about 4 trillion. And by the way, you are still being told more is being, taken. When you do that, remember there is a repayment, burden on the citizenry. You generate revenue, but it is going into paying those debts. And by the way, those debts are not coming, freely, or as your own, internal revenue. The profits and not the profits, but the interest on them are very huge.
Okay, but we
are in a situation where I can tell you the elections we are going into has been won by NASA. In fact, let me say it will be for NASA to lose. Let us not burden our minds, discussing, the problems in Jubilee, which has suffered its own stillbirth. Let us think of how we now move the nation, forward in the NASA government.
You have answered my question. Mheshimiwa Kaluma here.
From one side to the same view. he has made some serious allegations.
Yeah, because we finished that story, Mheshimiwa Yusuf. Each of you had a chance to
I want to
prosecute.
respond to the allegations that he's making.
Just respond.
That we are wasting time discussing.
But Mheshimiwa, the question was, is there silent
I
infighting?
think Kaluma has
no.
but he has there's something serious he has said which is not good for
And
the
we
country.
will get
No, we are kind of,
we are getting
yeah, he has said NASA has won.
we are getting there.
That's a very good job for the country. No, it's bad because
just
what NASA is trying
ODM is about to boycott the election.
I want to ask my judgment.
Already panicking.
Jonathan Weke, Mheshimiwa Opondo Kaluma, with you in NASA, says this is an election that NASA has won.
Yes.
NASA is saying if the IEBC continue with the case in the appeals court, they are not participating in the election. So how do you win an election?
Yes.
Should the courts decide against your wishes?
We have to be, first of all, as I answer that question, let's put it into context. We need to be clear what this election is about. This election is about Jubilee, who's not been able to create any jobs because of what Mheshimiwa Kaluma has just said. All the revenue it gets is now paying debt instead of putting them in mega projects that in turn create employment. So it's about no jobs and the jobs that NASA will create, and we've been able to demonstrate how we are going to do that. It's about the high cost of living. The Mwananchi understands it as unga, and
Back to Unga again.
low cost of living. It's the most important thing right now in this country, so we'll keep getting back to it. It's about corruption. Yeah, runaway corruption never seen before that this government has had.
At the national government,
Nairobi County government is the most corrupt government in Kenya.
Is that proven?
Absolutely.
Do we have any substantive evidence?
You have no evidence.
Corrupt government.
Yeah. Okay.
It's about corruption and no corruption. And since these are the three most important things in our country today, and these are the things that NASA has been able to demonstrate in the meetings that it goes to every week in different parts of the country, the country is beginning to speak, and they're beginning to say, we think that we are going to elect this NASA government. The government of the day, in response, is beginning to say, now that it's looking like we might not come back, how do we steal this election? The court has ruled.
Challenge that.
The court has ruled that you go and count the votes at the constituency level. Again, our constitution is clear. Everything that we do today in this country is with the spirit of decentralization and the spirit of devolution. So we are saying, people vote for the president at the constituency level. Let's count the votes at the constituency level. Let's announce them at the constituency level. Indeed, a High Court has ruled that. IEBC, for some very strange reason, very strange, have decided to appeal that decision, and they're saying, no, we don't believe our guys at the constituency level. The results must be announced at
the national
level. Now, NASA is smarter than before, because this is what happened in 2007. You know what was announced at the constituency, and the facts are there, was not what was announced at the tallying center at KICC. Until the lights had to be switched off, Kivutu had to run to State House and swear in a president at night. Never happened before in the history of this country, right? It happened again in 2013, where very strangely the Supreme Court made a 3-minute decision, and Kaluma is a lawyer, he'll be able to tell you, that cannot be cited anywhere or taught anywhere in any school of law anywhere in the world, because they refused to admit our 800-page document showing how the results from the constituency level were altered by the time it got to the national level. So this time NASA is saying we've been beaten twice. The first time we fought,
the Supreme Court is
hold on a second. The first time we fought,
IEBC is wrong.
Hold on a
it's
second.
A national institution.
The first time we fought. The second time we said, listen, this country is bigger, we are not fighting, we'll go the court way. Again, the court was manipulated. You saw what happened at the Supreme Court. Now, by the Supreme Court. And by the IEBC, I mean, the chairman of the IEBC went and said publicly on national TV that Raila Odinga is a perennial loser, he can never win an election. How does a referee say that? The former chairman. Yeah. So how can he say that? So I'm just concluding my point
very quickly, because we need to hear from.
I'm just concluding my point. So this time around, NASA is saying we have done everything right. We are talking what the people want to hear, and we have shown them how we are going to move this country forward. But there is now a scheme to steal election again. So why go to the election in the first place? So unless this is corrected, unless the High Court is upheld, the ruling of the High Court, then we are not going to an election.
Fair enough. Yusuf, you are saying there are a number of issues raised by Jonathan that are
they're very, very serious issue. First of all, the Deputy Governor of the Nairobi County Government is demonizing the Supreme Court, our top judicial body. He says made a mistake or was corrupt. He is now also faulting the Independent Electoral Boundaries Commission, the IEBC.
I've given very good
let me answer you.
But Charles, you know this is serious. The Deputy Governor did not mention corruption in relation to the Supreme Court. He did.
I did not.
He has an chance.
I think that one the same way we gave Jonathan a chance. Let's give you.
And he has attacked and demonized
for clarity of record.
Two of the institutions.
For clarity of record, the Deputy Governor has disqualified the ruling by the Supreme Court and said they did not go through the 800-page evidence.
Which means he disagrees with the decision of the Supreme Court.
Correct.
He has not said that is corrupt.
No, nobody has talked about corruption.
He has
talked about
demonized the two institutions that are critical for our constitutional democratic process. Which means, and then in Nakuru, we have a party, ODM and NASA, the so-called NASA, panicking already, which completely contradicts the perception created here, the false perception created by Mheshimiwa Kaluma and the Deputy Governor that they're already winning. You can only win in an election. The election has not happened. What NASA and ODM now is building up is creating doubts in the minds of the Kenyan public.
Mheshimiwa, sorry to cut you short, but I think for record purposes, Jubilee have more than one said this one will win 70%.
I don't have a problem with that. So what I'm saying, what they are now saying.
Are you contradicting your coalition?
What I am now saying, that would be determined by the Kenyan people on the 8th of August.
Yes, and
I believe that we would win. But now,
you believe you will win?
Yes, IEBC has gone to court in its wisdom to correct what they consider an anomaly in the law. The courts of Kenya, the judiciary, which is independent, IEBC, which is an independent body, and the judiciary are looking at this issue. The judiciary, the courts have not determined the matter. Now, what is happening in ODM is panic. They've started to fear. They're seeing the elections are approaching very quickly. They are facing a terrible defeat in the eyes of the Kenyan public. So what now they are falling back to is not trust in the Kenyan population to elect the leaders that they want, because they have been living this lie, this big lie, that the last elections were cooked, the elections before were cooked, and therefore they're selling this big lie to the Kenyan public, and they're trying to run away from the election. Wanakimbia sasa hivi to disrupt the elections, to go into mass action, into the streets, to create violence, to disrupt the normal...
Did they do that in Nakuru?
Yes, that's what they have threatened. The law? That is what they have threatened. What I am telling them is to accept the independent institutions that we have, to respect the independent institutions we have, and in fact, if it is true that they have the majority view of the Kenyan people, let's test that at the national elections on the 8th of August. And let the Kenyan people decide in using the ballot paper, not violence in the street.
Thank you.
Charles, let me explain the law around
the ultimatum.
Yes, the law, and then tie it to the ultimatum. And it is founded on law. I want my learned brothers to look at the Constitution and the Elections Act, and you'll find that the counting of results takes place at the polling station.
Correct.
In the amendments to the Elections Act, we last preferred the ones which were fought over and negotiated, so heatedly. We said that the final, the results or the outcome of elections as declared at the polling station will be final. And like in the past, where...
This is what the two principals said, don't change a comma.
Correct. It is in the Elections Act.
Cross the T's.
It is in the Constitution. It is counting of votes. And we are saying that vote count at the polling stations will be the final results. Charles, this is different from the previous situation where you remember even media houses were saying those are provisional results, and where the results coming from down there were being waited for at the national level, whether at KICC or Bomas, for IEBC to pretend they are counting results which were counted at Diru Primary Station or Roma Bay Primary School in the presence of people, for eternity, and then they say that they are altered. Then we said when the results are counted, and remember why we are saying the polling station is a very good unit. Remember, the people are there, the voters are there, the agents of all candidates are there. Then those results are tallied in respect of each candidate, and they go to the constituency level. When they go to the constituency level, they now go to the hand of the returning officer, who is an appointee of IEBC. There are noises about it. This is an agent of IEBC superintending elections as an official in the presence of all agents of candidates and contesting parties there. Unlike before, again, the Elections Act in Jogu, which I would invite you to read again, because it appears you did not look at it when you were passing it in Parliament, also says those results as declared by the returning officer down there will be final. Why so? We are saying that at that level, the people are there. You get what I mean? And everybody else, including the agents of the contesting parties and individuals, are there. And of course they sign off the relevant forms and they come. When it comes to the national level, of course then we have established the level of the county returning officer. It goes there, and of course the county seats are declared. When it comes to the presidential election, unlike other cases where we have a returning officer being appointed by IEBC down there, the Constitution stipulates that the returning officer for presidential elections is the chairperson of IEBC. And if you look at the constitutional architecture, it is not vested in him the power to count results from the polling stations, the wards or constituencies. His function is now to tally and declare the winner of the presidential vote. And tallying is what are the results from each of the constituencies declared by our own returning officers in respect of each candidate, so that it is not something that is again going to take you a whole week like it happened before to know. Just let me end by saying that when we have good elections, it is good for the country, it is good for everybody. By way of sound and peaceful and credible elections, we institute the government of the country. Even this idea that we take a whole day to declare results, I've observed, let me end by saying, Charles, elections all over, from Turkey to South Africa to United Kingdom, the Scotland, I've been all over, to Tanzania and everywhere. When we were in Turkey, let me end it, because it is important.
You're ending for the third time, Mheshimiwa.
No, we are just learning now. I don't want politics around elections, because it is important for us. I can tell you, I observed the last campaigns and elections which put President Erdogan into the seat. We were at the headquarters of the offices, and by the way, whether you are in some hotel or wherever, you see the results streaming on TV all over. In 1 hour, the presidential vote is already declared.
Because it's counted and announced.
It is counted, it is announced, and it goes electronically everywhere.
Mheshimiwa Barua, you need to talk about this. And first of all, tell us,
let me get my turn.
What's the law say?
But Charles, I didn't discuss the ultimatum. I don't know why you cut me short. In 1 minute only.
In 30 seconds.
So we have a situation.
So you've given an ultimatum?
30 seconds. We have given an ultimatum. We are saying that democracy is a national value and principle of governance. When somebody is subverting it, of course the Constitution says we should come out to defend it. What we were saying is that we have a situation where parties went to the High Court, and the High Court, not just one judge but 3 judges, independent-minded judges, have made a ruling confirming those provisions of law we are talking about. What interest would an umpire acting in good faith have to go challenging it? And that is why we are saying, on this one, we believe Jubilee is acting on the behest of anybody. And if this thing were to be reversed, then it would be, a useless exercise.
Absolutely not. Mheshimiwa Jogu Barua, what does the law say about counting of presidential votes? Where should it be done? And then you can tell us this NASA ultimatum.
Okay. First and foremost, I would like to start by saying that Honorable Karuma is casting aspersions on preparedness of his colleagues, and he's saying that some of us may not have read the bill when it was being discussed in Parliament, which I think is a bit negative, and it's not dangerous for me because I'm not defending my seat, but I think for Hassan it can have a...
You're not defending?
No, I'm not.
Oh my God.
And for Hassan, it's another issue. So as we are on public television,
so you believe
let's go on object. Okay, let's go. So what I'm saying, let me say this. Don't worry, Karuma.
Okay, Mheshimiwa, just rest.
I'm going. What I'm saying is, let me talk with Karuma. You are my friend, I know. I'm saying that the problem I'm seeing is more fundamental. These guys...
We should start by telling us, what does the law say about counting of presidential votes?
But Charles,
then you can expound on it.
Okay, there's a dispute on that now. So let me just you have come from far. I'm saying that this IBC in the first place is a new IBC which came into place after ODM went the streets. And they forced this country to the negotiating table so that they can come up with a neutral umpire, which is the current IBC. What is happening now, while they are questioning the integrity of IBC, I think the IBC has failed the loyalty test to ODM. The IBC we have now is very neutral. And that is why Kaluma said that they have already won the elections. You cannot go to a competition that you have already won. And this is very dangerous. That's what I was coming to now. You are trying to put this country in high tension. So that in the event you are declaring the loser,
Mheshimiwa,
you'll be actually... Let me finish.
No. Let's get things clear. Okay. Jubilee have more than one said they have won this 70%. Are they putting the country in high tension? I'm
saying now we are here on this table. I've not said it. He has said it's on this table. We are discussing the headlines of today. And they have said it here.
Today is made of yesterday. I mean it because the other
what is the law on counting?
What does the law say on counting of votes before you talk about NASA?
Of course, the law recognizes the constituency centers.
Final.
They recognize the constituency as a point of tallying. You know, you tally from
counting.
Of course, you start counting from the polling station.
Yeah.
Then you tally at the
presidential tallying and declaration.
Mheshimiwa Yusuf, I'll come to you.
So what I'm saying is I've not really a problem with the tallying and the counting, tallying based on constituency results
to be final.
But what I'm saying is, what is this emphasis? What do these guys think Jubilee is going to do? Jubilee is not supervising elections. Jubilee is just your competitor. So why should a competitor come and try to dictate the rules of the game when you're already in the ring? No, I think there's something suspect there. So what I'm saying here is this: the critical thing we have in this country, I want to support Karuma on this, is to have credible, free and fair elections, so that the best candidate is announced the winner.
Correct.
For the benefit of this country, because we need stability to continue, and this country should be indivisible based on tribe or political parties.
Awesome. Yeah. Mheshimiwa Hassan, what does the law say?
The law is very clear, and I must I want to add to Mheshimiwa Kaluma that not only was I actively involved, but also I'm also in the delegated legislation, a committee that puts the rules and regulations that govern the work of IEBC. So I absolutely have no problem. It is correct. It is clearly correct the way he's put it. But now that IEBC has taken this matter to the court, why is ODM issuing ultimatum? Why is it trying to pressurize the decision of the court? Why doesn't it allow?
NASA, not ODM.
Why does ODM want to impose?
It's NASA, not ODM. The headlines say NASA. There's no ODM.
It is Raila Odinga, the leader of ODM, who is leading
the leader of NASA.
Yes, who is leading this argument. Is that why does they want to use political pressure in a public rally to influence the laws of our country? Suppose maybe the judiciary, the court, would also favor the law and say there's no need to change it. IEBC has gone to an independent court, and the courts are independent. Let's leave them to make their decision either way. For me, I don't have any problem with the law as it is, and if IEBC, which is the independent body given this job, has a problem, Let the courts deal with that. But I see this declaration, the ultimatum, to use political pressure to change our laws, to influence our legal system as an ulterior motive. There is something negative, something wrong about it. And ODM should not use public rallies to influence judicial decisions.
Now that you seem not to want to recognize NASA, should the Court of Appeal decide to repeal the decision by the High Court on this law, would we see Jubilee go to court and say, no, the law says count these things at the polling station?
No, I think Jubilee is, as Mheshimiwa Barua has said, Jubilee, ODM, Wiper, all these parties are equal partners in the process of IEBC should not be made a victim, nor should it be demonized, nor should it be attacked by a political party.
You see, we are not
we should
demonizing.
respect our institutions. These are the independent institutions that we have given
we are not,
responsibility under our constitution to do the job.
We are not demonizing IEBC, and we will never. We come out to say...
Are you pressurizing the judiciary?
Our institutions of governance should operate as the Constitution expects, with the law in mind. And by the way, look at chapter 15 of the Constitution that establishes IEBC and all these other commissions. The idea of protecting and upholding the Constitution and the law is the main thing. What we are questioning is what business is our good institution, the IEBC, have to go to the High Court to challenge a matter, the law of which is clear. And by the way, this is elections law, which is should be known to IEBC more than all these other institutions. This is the Constitution. I mean, when we can agree with my brothers here that we legislated this law, and it is clear counting is a function being done at the constituency downwards, what you remain with is APIA is tallying and a declaration. Why should IEBC, whose function would be to enforce and implement the law, go seeking interpretation on such a clear thing? And this is where we are saying, let us not have these institutions put themselves in a situation where they become suspect in terms of their motives. Let IEBC have their law in their hand, and that law has been oversimplified by the legislature, several occasions, and implement it, we go forward, instead of creating tensions and suspicions around a matter so important.
Mheshimiwa Mweke, you are asking about the law. You are saying, can it, is it cast in stone? Can it be changed?
Yeah, the law.
We have a provision for amendment of laws.
Correct. The law can be changed. And you have seen indeed that when Jubilee wants something done, they go and change the law. But in this case, the law says very clearly that the constituency results will be final. IEBC is challenging that in court. Now, all these legislators are the ones who put that law in place. So my question to Mheshimiwa Yusuf and Mheshimiwa Barua is, why don't you want to follow the law that you yourself put in place?
No, I don't have a problem with that. I didn't say that I'm opposed to the contradiction.
He actually saying he doesn't.
This case,
what I'm saying is
unfair to them.
This case of Taring is a case which has been taken to court by IEBC.
Yes.
Then Honorable Mweke is saying, when Jubilee wants something, we go and change the law. Why didn't you change the law this time? If you are biased on one side or the other, we gave IEBC independence to do what they are supposed to do. You people in ODM, I think you should be patient enough.
We are in NASA.
Okay, ODM, you should be patient enough.
These guys are so scared and terrified of NASA. And they can't even mention it by name.
It's very difficult for me to mention something that does not exist.
The National Super Alliance.
It's that's for my heart does not exist.
It's an aeronautical company in the United States.
I don't know. Mr. Charles, forgive them.
They have to find, okay.
It is so heavy in there.
It's a state agency in the United States.
Yeah.
In Kenya, it's registered at the Register of Political Parties.
I saw somebody calling himself Joshua.
The Northern Alliance.
Now you see, because somebody was calling himself Joshua, and Joshua is my son. So my son is going to
Charles, forgive.
So what I'm saying is this, ODM or NASA, whatever you call it, should be patient enough to wait for the ruling of the appeals court. If you are just trying to preempt what's going to come out, you are trying to influence the decision of the judges. And I know it's possible in this country. I think you're not doing this country good service.
Fair enough. The law is very clear. Votes should be counted at the polling station. The gentlemen here all agree on this. The point of divergence is Jogu Barua and Yusuf Hassan say NASA should not pressurize the judiciary.
Yes.
Peter Kaluma and Jonathan Mweke are saying, if the law is clear on this, why do we have to keep going back and forth? I think the best thing we can do is wait for the Court of Appeal to make a decision on this. Then NASA can decide to move on, or Jubilee can decide to take
withdraw from elections.
They take. We are taking a last commercial break, and we'll be right back after this. When we come back, we'll be looking at the rise in the number of independent candidates and what it portends for the politics of this country. Keep it locked.